Thank you. Today we are going to be talking about, is this right for me? Hannah, myself, and Claire will be giving this presentation, and you'll see a kind of a brief overview of some experiences of what it is like to be a graduate student a little bit more in detail. And then we'll get started on our panel and have some time for breakout groups to ask the panelists questions. So let's get started. And today we just want to remind you of our organizers and presenters. We're a group of graduate students in population biology at Davis. And we are also joined by facilitators and mentors here. If anyone can give a wave, if that is you, so that people know who they are, who is their facilitators and mentors. And it should also be in your name. So if you have not gotten to that, go ahead and do that now. And this is our last session for the formal sessions. So give yourself a round of applause for hanging in there and getting to the end of the program. We also have a wrap-up session. In just a moment, we're going to take a poll. But this wrap-up session will be on Thursday at the same times as our workshop and office hours would be, which is this time, 5 o'clock. And this session, we are going to actually be doing something a little bit different from the last ones. We're going to be doing a craft and happy hour night. So that means bring crafting supplies, some watercolors, colored pencil, paper. We have embroidery that will likely be going on. I'll likely be working with thermoplastics. It's going to be a lot of fun. And bring your favorite beverage, whatever that may be. And right now we're going to go ahead and launch a poll that is asking if you are interested in attending this. And this is not required, so we understand if you can't. But we think it would be a great opportunity for you guys to meet one another a little bit more and hang out in a really fun setting. And I know, we've had kind of some of these as grad students, and they're always a lot of fun. And you end up making something really cool at the end. So, all right, give that a few more seconds. Looks like we got a pretty cool group. And unfortunately, we will miss all of the no's. Okay. Probably all. Get just a few more seconds for answers. We can go ahead and end it. Great. So I'll be sending in a reminder email. Feel free to change your mind, no's, and we can't wait to see your yeses. Okay. And so today we are doing a 90-minute workshop, right? So this is the introduction. We have resources to dig deeper into our topics today, which can be found on our website. And we are peer facilitators here to guide your participation and learn with you. So we are by no means experts, as we say at each of our sessions. We're here to learn from one another. And we're excited to do that. And a reminder of our session norms today, please have your video on if possible, since many of our communication methods are body language. Stay muted unless you are speaking. Feel free to raise your hand and use that feature or write in the chat if you have a question. And then today, be respectful and be curious. Okay, and so, the first one is not, we will not be doing elevator pitches today. Sorry about that. That should have been changed. But we are going to reflect on whether or not you will make the decision to pursue grad school. So that first part we are not doing. The second part is what we're doing today, and we'll have a lot of time to spend thinking about that and talking about that. Okay, and so now we're going to go into a little bit of what we're going to be talking today. Hannah's going to be giving you guys a bird's eye view of grad school. And then our panelists will take us into some time for why they did and did not choose a PhD for grad school or a master's. Our panelists all went to grad school today, and we'll have lots of time to talk about that. And it will be a time to reflect afterwards in breakout groups, and then some concluding remarks at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to let Hannah take it away.
All right, thanks, Danielle. So yeah, to provide you with a bird's eye view as you decide whether or not to pursue grad school, we're going to go over the results of 2 surveys. The first is focused on the experience of current PhD students in terms of their satisfaction and enjoyment, workload, and then also discrimination and harassment. And the second is focused on where a PhD in our field can take you. So later on in this session, you're going to hear more personal stories and narratives, but we hope that this zoomed out perspective will also be useful in your decision making. Next slide, please. So this data comes from Nature's 2019 annual survey of PhD students. So it's not just limited to the fields of ecology and evolution, it's any kind of STEM PhD. And over 6,000 students responded from around the world. We're only going to be highlighting some of the results of this survey, but if you want to read the whole thing for yourself, the link is on the slides and also on our website. They asked all the students in this survey, how satisfied are you with your decision to pursue a PhD? And since the start of your grad school experience, has your level of satisfaction increased, worsened, or remained the same? You can see from the figure on the left that about 3/4 of all the respondents are either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with their decision to pursue a PhD. And the figure on the right shows you that about half the respondents are more satisfied since starting grad school, and about half are less satisfied since starting grad school. So there's clearly a lot of variation here. Next slide, thanks. They also asked, overall, what do you enjoy most about life as a PhD student? And the top 3 things that respondents listed that they enjoy are the intellectual challenge, working with interesting and bright people, and just the university academic environment. In terms of the number of hours PhD students are working per week, 3/4 of all the respondents reported working 41 or more hours. So you can think of this as more than a 9-to-5 job. Although again, you can see that there's a lot of variation here. So 1/4 of the students responded working less than that. Finally, they asked students if they had experienced discrimination or harassment in their PhD program. Sadly, 1 in 5 students reported facing some form of discrimination or harassment, the most common form being gender discrimination, followed by racial discrimination. And according to this survey, the most frequently reported perpetrators were the students' supervisors. So something to keep in mind. Now we're going to zoom in a little more and focus on surveys of graduates of PhD programs in the field of ecology. So this is a survey that was published in a recent paper. We don't have time to cover or analyze like fields of evolution or genetics, etc., but the results are probably pretty similar. There's a link to a very detailed infographic on general biology PhD career paths on our website. So I recommend you check that out if you're interested in other career paths. Okay, jumping into the survey. So this paper surveyed almost 10,000 individuals who received a PhD in ecology sometime between 1968 and 2011. And they found that the vast majority of PhD recipients were employed in jobs related to ecology. So only about 3% of them were unemployed and it was not their choice. And only 5% of them were employed in jobs that weren't related at all to ecology. So I think this is kind of good news, right? If you get a PhD in ecology, you can end up doing some kind of work related to ecology if that's what you choose to do. Focusing on just the most recent graduates, so those who received their doctorate between 2000 and 2011, You can see that these graduates have taken a wide variety of career paths. So over half stay in academia, doing research, which is the red slice here, or teaching, which is the orange slice here, or in some kind of admin position in a university, which is the yellow slice. And the other fraction end up working elsewhere, such as for the government, which is the green slice, or for industry or nonprofit organizations, which are the two blue slices. This is the same survey, but now just presented as a table with salary information. And if you look at the column on the far right, you can see that 7 to 8 years after finishing a PhD in ecology, the respondents on average reported making somewhere between $55,000 to $85,000 per year, depending on which section or sector they ended up getting employed in.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Hannah, for the overview on all the different outcomes from getting a PhD in ecology. So now let's talk about some reasons why you might want to go to grad school. And there are a lot of good reasons. So I want to hear from you guys. So if you could put in the chat, what are some reasons that you think are good reasons to want to go to graduate school, either for a master's or a PhD or professional program? You can say them out loud too if you want. There we go. Further knowledge in a specific area, interest in the field of research. Those are both great reasons. Independently motivated, curious, and want to be your own boss. That's a good reason. Vibrancy of community. Yeah, I think these are all really good reasons. Working with a network of people working on similar things. Yeah, I guess Danielle, do you want to go to the next slide? So here's what we listed as reasons that going to graduate school might make the most sense for your career. So if your career goal requires the advanced degree, so if you want to become a professor or a lawyer or a doctor, that's a pretty good reason to go on to graduate school to get the training for it. You want to specialize in a subject you feel is of great importance to you. So we hit on that in the chat. You want to advance your career or change career directions, or you want to gain or need a certain level of certification. So that's the same as if it's required for your job, it's probably pretty good. Oh no, did I freeze? No. Oh no, did Maddie freeze? Okay, well, if you want to go to the next slide, Danielle. Okay, same thing, but what are some reasons that might not be super great for wanting to go to grad school? Throw them in the chat, say them out loud. For the money, that is a good answer. Excessive loans, free bagels, a coffee bagel donut day, you don't know what to do, title prestige, just to continue, you don't know what else to do, feel like you aren't creative. These are all great answers. If you want to go to the next slide, Danielle. Yeah, so you guys hit on pretty much everything we were thinking. So you don't want to get a job, you just want to put off paying student loans, you don't know what else to do, you don't really think you can get a job, because as we've talked about, graduate school is a job. And you really like college and think graduate school is just going to be just as fun. So yeah, you guys seem to have hit on everything that we were thinking. But yeah, just things to consider, I guess, when you're deciding your path.
All right, thank you, Hannah and Claire. And thanks everyone for your answers. Sounds like you guys are getting the hang of it and are starting to think about why you might want to go to graduate school. And so to further that thought and those ideas, we're now going to transition into our panel. And this panel is why I did and did not choose a PhD or a master's or graduate school and the decisions behind it. Okay, and so here are our panelists. Today, I will stop sharing my screen in just a moment to give our panelists kind of more of the floor. But I want to again thank all our panelists for being here. We have a wide group of people who are at either PhD or master's level. We have Dr. Amelia Huerta Sanchez, Dr. Kristen Lee. We have Liz Allen, Amanda Hawes, and Kevin Travis. Thank you for being here today. And so today we're in just a few minutes, I'm going to give each of the panelists time to introduce themselves. And so what this will be is kind of introducing your educational background, your current position, and why did you make or decide to pursue the degree and the position that you currently hold. And so that will be dropped in the chat too. So just to give folks a reminder. And I am going to stop sharing my screen so that we can have all of our panelists be seen. So with that, I will give the floor to Liz.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Allen. Looking at the prompt, my educational background, I have a master's in marine biology. I have a bachelor's in biology from William and Mary, which is a small liberal arts college on the East Coast in Virginia. And then I have a master's degree in marine biology from Northeastern University. But I did my master's research as a visiting student at UC Davis, and actually know a couple of your facilitators and mentors on the call as a result. Yeah, and then after my master's, I went into the workforce, so to speak. I currently work as an environmental consultant in the Bay Area for a small employee-owned consulting firm called WRA, super non-memorable. So that's my day job. And then on the side, I'm actually a pretty active freelance science writer. I have a column with Forbes. I'm also published on Tree Hugger and Scientific American. And I work with some, I write some stuff for some apps for like a carbon offset app. So I do a lot, I find that has a lot of opportunities. So be happy to speak to either of those careers. And truthfully, if I didn't love my day job so much, I probably would be a full-time freelancer. So if you want to be full-time science communicator, I'd be happy to talk about how I think that's very possible. And then what made me decide to pursue the degree and position I had? After I got a very generalist biology background in college. And I always liked marine biology, but I didn't really get a ton of it in college. And I was thinking I wanted to pursue a PhD because, quite frankly, that seemed like the only way to get into marine biology, but I wasn't ready to commit to a single topic. I wasn't ready to commit to a single topic for like 6 years. And so I decided to pursue a master's program at Northeastern that's kind of a generalist master's program. And my point of that was to get more experience in a bunch of different marine systems so that I would hopefully come out of that program with a better understanding of what I wanted to pursue as a PhD. And I ended up applying to PhD programs at the end of my master's, but funding was really tight that year. And on most of the labs I applied, and I got into a really good lab, but it didn't feel right. I just felt like I was about to make the leap simply because I was afraid of what else I would do. And I just wasn't ready to uproot my life to go start a PhD. So I figured I'd either put off the decision or I'd enter the workforce. And I ultimately entered the workforce and stayed and love it. And I have no intention of going back and getting my PhD. But I did go through the application process, the interview process, and would be happy to speak to that as well. It was a really tough decision to not go for it, especially with some great offers on my plate. But I am so happy that I went with the decision I made. And I'm also really happy I have my master's. It's actually been really helpful in the career I'm in, but the career I'm in, a PhD wouldn't have made a difference. There certainly are people with PhDs in my industry, but it's in no way a barrier. People who have PhDs or masters basically hold the same level of positions in the environmental consulting world. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Liz. And keep in mind, folks, we will have breakout rooms for you to meet all the panels. And yeah, thank you so much again. I probably should have said that before. So you guys will have lots of questions or lots of time to ask questions to specific people. And you will choose the breakout groups in this case. So you'll be able to go around, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. So next, I will hand the floor over to our next panelist, Dr. Kristen Lee.
Hi, everyone. I'm not used to being introduced as doctor. I feel like that doesn't happen often, so thanks. So for my educational background, I do have a PhD. I went to UC Davis and I studied evolutionary biology and population genetics with a lot of the folks on this call. And before that, I did my bachelor's at the University of Wisconsin, where I studied biology. I'd say that I went to do my PhD without a ton of thought into it. I spent a year in between undergrad and grad school. I enjoyed like the research aspect of things. I wanted to learn more about evolutionary biology, and I feel like I found like a really good fit lab while I was applying and ended up at Davis. But now I am outside of that world actually pretty much completely, and I work as a data scientist in tech. So I work at Spotify, and I don't do anything with genetic data anymore. But I think, and partially I chose that like for lifestyle sort of reasons, like I did want some more boundaries and work-life balance, flexibility on where to live, financial reasons, like lots of different things that I had not like fully understood when I started my PhD, that like what sort of career path being a professor would entail in terms of lifestyle choices. But that said, I have absolutely no regrets for myself for going to grad school. And I feel like it was like a really great place for me at that stage to learn a lot of things in terms of like both technical skills that are 100% applicable to my job today, but also like smaller things like advocating for myself, how to tell stories with data, how to work with others, like things that I don't think I had right out of undergrad personally. Yeah, so I'm happy to speak to any of those sorts of things.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe our next panelist will hand it over to Kevin Travis.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you all. Like she mentioned, my name is Kevin. I am currently a California Sea Grant State Fellow. But before that, I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Tampa over in Florida. And there I got a marine biology/biology major with a minor in mathematics. And from there, I went and got my master's degree at California State University, Long Beach. And I wrapped that up in May 2020. But at the current moment, I'm a Sea Grant Fellow, and I'm essentially, this is a state fellowship that kind of gets you exposure and experience to kind of the intersection between science, resource management, natural resource management, and policy. And through the process of becoming a fellow, you get matched with a different agency or different organization within the state. And so I currently work at California Ocean Science Trust. And as a fellow there, I get to work on various different topics. OST is a nonprofit, but we were created through state legislation. So we are closely tied to the state, and we essentially kind of are in that nexus between academic science, typically ocean and coastal issues, as well as policy and decision makers, and other different state kind of natural resource management decisions. And so through my role, it's pretty a cool role that I get to kind of do this dot connecting conduit between what science is coming out of academia and how that can be applied or connected to different decisions that are being made for different, coastal and ocean issues or topics facing the state. And so a lot of the work I do is either connecting academics or experts on certain emerging topics to different policymakers or decision makers, and that can be through briefings. We've done briefings on offshore wind to all the way to the restoration of kelp forests off the California coast. So a lot of different going back and forth between different groups and meeting with different folks from different backgrounds and being able to connect them and kind of get on the same page with what needs to be conveyed to make sure state policy is kind of hitting different goals and what we need to do from different perspectives. So that's kind of what I'm currently doing. It's a one-year fellowship. If you're, that fellowship is for those that have just recently graduated from graduate school. So it may be down the road, but definitely if you're interested in this kind of path or those kind of opportunities after graduate school, I'd be glad to speak to that. But how did I get here? So kind of getting into why I made the decisions and my path from a master's to here. I think coming out of my bachelor's degree, I definitely got a wide range of experience and exposure in marine science. It was definitely it's my passion and what I wanted to get involved in. And so after getting all those different experiences and kind of that formative experience in undergrad, I knew I wanted to continue. And it was a lot of the same reasons that you all voiced about expanding my research, being in an environment where multiple people are interested in the same topic. And so I think when I applied for graduate school, I was applying for both PhD and master's. I really was interested in a specific research field, and that was comparative biomechanics that kind of carried me through undergrad into graduate school. So I actually was looking for specific labs that were doing comparative biomechanics, primarily marine focused. And so I found a great opportunity to get my master's at CSULB. And so I made the jump from Florida to the West Coast and did a 3-year master's there on a thesis looking at very specific locomotive biomechanics. I did a water-land transition, looking at how different vertebrates, primarily fishes, move between these two environments and how that can influence or provide insight into the evolutionary transition from water onto land. So it was a very specific, highly kind of technical, but I think the process was great for many different reasons and many different things that allowed me to transition from an academic career to where I'm at now as a state fellow, And I think there's different things that are important, I would say, in hindsight, and that's kind of making sure you have time to reflect and think about what skills you've learned and what is, what's really rewarding for you. I think when you go through different skills and making sure that you pick a graduate program in a community that's supportive and inclusive and allows you to get multiple different exposures to different aspects of what you may be good at, what you may excel in, what gives you that gratification in a career. So after I was finishing up my master's, I had all the intentions to get a PhD and continue on to a professorship. But I definitely had moments, highs and lows, expected moments throughout my graduate career. It made me kind of have a moment of reflection, and I realized I needed to kind of expand and take a break, which I highly recommend always as well, to give a moment to kind of think about what you really are interested in. And so that is where I heard about this fellowship for graduates, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm 7 months into the fellowship, so it's been a great opportunity. But yeah, I'd love to speak on any of those things or answer any questions you have about that kind of a career pathway.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for that. And I believe our last, Dr. Amelia is, I believe, not here and is not able to join us today. But our last panelist is certainly.
She's here.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
wait, maybe she's not. Never mind. I might have messed it up.
Oh,
She's not. I'm sorry.
no worries. Yeah, that's okay. Amanda, though, we would love to hear from you. So take it away.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Haas. I will start my current position. I am a water quality coordinator for the California Department of Transportation in their North Region Environmental Engineering Unit. It is a very long thing. It can be boiled down into my classification if you wanted to apply for my job, is environmental planner. So I work with people like Liz actually very often. So that's very generally that. If that's something people want to talk about, we can talk about that a little bit more, but I'm going to go into my background. This pairs very well with what Kevin was just talking about. Kevin and I both went to Long Beach together. We were both Sea Grant Fellows. He is a Sea Grant Fellow this year. I was a Sea Grant Fellow last year. I was super excited when he applied because I thought he might be interested in PhD programs, and I really thought Sea Grant would be a cool opportunity for him. So that was really cool. But I wanted to point it out because unlike Kevin, I took a very long break between undergrad and grad school. So he said, take time. I took a lot of time. I took like almost 10 years of time between my undergrad and grad school. So I got my undergraduate degree in marine biology at Occidental College in Los Angeles. It's a really tiny private liberal arts college. It was awesome. It was a fabulous program. I did tons of field work. I worked with tons of people from Cal State, Northridge, and grad students. It was a really fantastic opportunity. But when I finished, I was feeling a little burnt out, and then the 2008 recession hit and there were just no jobs. And I did not want to work in a lab counting samples, algae samples under a microscope. So I did other things. I ended up working in a popular hipster bakery in LA for 6 years, making cupcakes and other pastries and desserts and catering weddings and like TV show productions and doing that whole thing. And that was super fun. And I saw famous people and cooked famous people food. And then I was fried. Working in a kitchen is really hard. Anyone here who's ever worked in a kitchen or been a server, you know what I'm talking about. And I was burnt out. And I started looking into positions. This is my pitch for networking. I just started connecting to people I knew who had jobs I thought were interesting. I thought maybe I wanted to try working in nonprofits. So I just hit up all my friends from college who worked in nonprofits. And one of them was a director of development at a homeless services, youth-centered homeless services agency. And he was like, hey, I'm looking for help. And so I started volunteering there part-time. And then I was finally able to completely quit baking. And I was a development associate at a nonprofit, and I did grants management, and I wrote grants, and I did research, and I learned tons of stuff about homeless youth. And then I was double fried. If you guys know people who want to be caseworkers, they are saints. Bake them cookies. I lasted 2 years and I was done. 2 years of almost full time, and I just couldn't. I wasn't even a caseworker. I was just doing data analysis and writing grants, and it was just too hard. So I started looking for jobs, and most of the jobs related to my undergraduate degree, you needed like directly related experience, and it was like 5 years of experience or an advanced graduate degree. And I was like, I can get an advanced graduate degree in way less than 5 years if I get a master's. So I did. I went back to, I had to reach out to my undergrad advisor. I had to come up with, you still have to have references to go to grad school, even if you graduated 9 years ago from college. So I had to again, networking, I had to reach back out. I had like a chemistry professor, and my advisor wrote me letters. I got into Long Beach, and I got a master's at Cal State Long Beach in, again, marine biology. I actually went back to the exact same thing I'd been doing the whole entire time, just with a very, very long break in the middle. And grad school was an interesting experience. I learned a lot, but I went into it never planning on getting a PhD. I went into it for a job. Someone said it's a terrible reason to go for money. I would disagree with that, because I went for money and I make twice what I was making in homeless services. So depending on your, but that very much depends on your goal. Like you have to think about what you're going to grad school for. That is the best question to ask. Why are you going? And I was going because I knew it would get me the job I wanted. And it did. This is almost, the job I have now is almost exactly what I wanted. I copy pasted half of my enter to grad school essay to my Sea Grant essay, because it was still exactly what I wanted to do. I was Caltrans first fellow. They hired me into the unit, and now I'm interviewing for a second year of Sea Grant Fellows in my own job, which is super cool. So any of those topics people want to talk about, I would be happy to riff on more.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and the rest of the panelists for giving that introduction. So let me share my screen again. just to give a little bit more detail about the breakout rooms. Bear with me for just a second here. Folks. Awesome. Thank you all for, again, for your great introductions. And so now we are going to be going into some breakout groups. We kind of want to give you guys enough time to see where your interests are in kind of terms of career and degree options. So we thought that we would let you guys navigate through the breakout rooms with the panelists yourselves. So Zoom has a feature where you will be able to choose the breakout room, and a halfway message will be sent kind of halfway through our is about half an hour or so of breakout groups with the panelists. And so there will be sent an email or a message about halfway through, letting you guys know that it's halfway. And you got that can kind of key you in if you haven't switched yet, to go ahead and switch rooms. And we will be back as a group at 6:10. All right, so now we are going to go ahead and jump into some reflection time. This is our last session, and so we want to give about 10 minutes in a breakout room in kind of a similar fashion that we've done before. And I will hand it over to Claire to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're gonna hop back into the breakout rooms. This time we're just gonna put you in one instead of having everyone bounce around. But so we just wanted to give everyone some time to reflect with their peers and just for themselves too, and think about mainly how has this program changed your perspective on graduate school. And if you need more things to talk about, maybe you can think about what's something that grad school could offer you that a job couldn't, and vice versa. And do you still think that grad school is right for you and that's the path that you're planning on going down? And if we finish all of that, then if you have any other last minute questions too, you'll have facilitators and mentors in your breakout room, so they will be happy to answer anything for you as well.